and on the other hand, it's the farsh. My question before we carry on is, what do you take away from the ruh, the soul of this class? I mean, the message for you as a person. Is there some water, please? I'm sorry. Yeah. Bismillah, yalla, and then we can carry on. Yes.
Thank you. Before this class, my understanding is it's like one ayah or one with the usul and farsh at the same time. Like Surah Fatiha was revealed twice at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
And that's something new I take. So that
Okay.
question makes a lot of sense.
Okay, mashallah, good. Someone else?
I thought I didn't think that could be done.
Ah, yes. I saw many people when I said يحبون المال حبا جما and then يأكلون and so forth. I saw people like frowning their eyebrows, like, what's going on here? Is this even allowed? So you see, this is the reason, and it's so much stronger. Like if you want to talk about the past, you say people used to love money a lot. وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالَ حُبًّا جَمًّا. And you too love money a lot. You see? So even in your dawah, you can use it. Like people will be at their ease when you say, yes, people before. When you mention this, they don't feel, they don't feel anything. Barakallahu feek. Thank you so much. So you see, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that people used to love money so much and they used to, that was their life. But He also says that we love money a lot. He said, وَتُحِبُّونَ الْمَالِ. So you can't escape from it. So in dawah, and this is why I'm writing a book which is called The Effect of the Qiraat on the Da'wah ilallah. So how the Da'wah ilallah Azza wa Jal is affected by the different Qiraat. So I think this to be very nice. And also the effect of Qiraat on the Aqidah is another book which I'm writing at the same time. Not like a Dhahabi. I'm not writing like this. Okay, somebody else? Okay, we continue.
Sorry, can I just say, I thought that, now I know it's not a mistake, I thought that when you've got, for example, use the example in the first lesson, qalb and kalb, they mean two different things.
Yes, that is not allowed, qalb and kalb.
But I used to think that was a similar mistake.
Ah, okay, no.
That saying, or that
Yes. It is not allowed everywhere. You can't just now turn every ya into a ta. Only there where the qira'ah says where it is. It is not in all the ayat where yuhibbun or where yaf'alun, yusallun, I don't know, all of a sudden becomes tusallun. It is not in the Quran anyway. But that's not what is meant. Because it's farsh. Farsh meaning it's only in certain places and not everywhere. Otherwise it would be a asl. It would be a fundamental where every ya turns into a ta, which is not the case. Yeah.
In that example, the word changes completely, whereas the root word here doesn't change.
No, but she was referring to, I didn't know that ya and ta were all, she thought it was the same, but then I want to make clear that it's not everywhere where it's ya, it becomes a ta. Only there where the qira'ah made it clear. Yeah. Yes.
About the bayinu of the
Naam.
Is it the same when the Yaqub and the two relations, or because of the writing? Because the without doubt is the same.
Yes, but even then we are in need of a proof that we can read it in two ways.
Okay.
Yes?
So it goes on the farsh.
Yeah, it goes on the farsh, yes. It doesn't go on the usul. Because usul would teach you it, and farsh is just transmit you. So usul is taught, and and farsh is transmitted, if I can say it like that. No. Somebody else? Yes.
So I have a question. When you're working towards an ijaza, would you stick with one recitation style initially, and
Yes, I would do one riwayaah.
and which one would you recommend?
Well, I go by hafs because the majority of people have learned how to read hafs, so I would go by hafs. Yes, but very often I would ask the student to learn shu'ba at the same time, because hafs and shu'ba are very close to one another. The differences aren't as many as between warsh and qalun, for example. So in this way, they don't just finish a riwayah, they finish a qira'ah, because every qira'ah has two rawis. No. Yes. Mm.
was one of those ex-Muslims.
Yes.
And in an attempt to sort of criticize the Quran, he used يأكلون تأكلون يحبون تحبون. And then somebody made a response, literally what you said.
Mhm.
That is part of the ijaz of Quran.
Naam.
To show the expansiveness in meaning, and
Naam.
possibilities, and the effect it has on all the different aspects.
Naam.
And I think that's, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I saw, I replied to this person as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Naam. Someone else? Yes.
In terms of mass transmission, when there's a whole like change of the word,
Yes.
was there a process of selecting which one would be transmitted? Or
Well, as I said at the very beginning, some of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum went away hearing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam pronouncing a word in a certain way. They might not have heard him saying it in another way, so that is why they passed on this way of pronouncing it. And another Sahabi pronounced it, transmitted it in another way of pronouncing it. So it all goes back to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and then to the Sahaba, transmitting it in a way they've heard him read, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Or you can rephrase your question if you like. No, just ask it again, because I have a feeling I didn't answer your question.
so like when the whole word has changed,
Mm-hmm.
and there's obviously different ways of reading it.
Yes.
So when it comes to with the word mass transmission of the Quran, how is it chosen that this is going to be like?
Okay. No, it's not chosen, because what we have now is just Asim, right? We have Hafs, and that's why we don't see it. But in the Mus'haf al-Imam, that Imam Uthman radiallahu anhu sent to the people, it was written, and in the side notes, the different possibilities to read the word were mentioned. You see, so it was all inclusive. So the masahif that Uthman sent to the people were all inclusive, and some differ, and they say no to each area. Yani he did send 7, some say it was only 5, some say it was more. Yani different Quran, I can't give a plural for the word Quran because Quran is one. But when he sent the different masahif, they say that every mushaf had a different qira'ah in it. So the scholars differ about this because we haven't found them, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do we not have
All of them? No, all of them we don't.
we have some of them?
Yes, some of them, yes. No, but we don't have all of them, so we don't know how it is exactly. But what we know is that it included all of this, especially because, as the brother referred to it, like there was no punctuation in the Quran, so the ba didn't have a dot, the tha didn't have 3 dots, the sheen didn't have 3 dots. I mean, only if you were an Arab you were able to read it, and this is why. You have to read Ulum al-Quran from Van Denver. Yes, Van Denver. It's in English. And then you will go over it, and he explains it in a very easygoing way. But anyway, he also gives some pictures of how the Quran was written back then without points. So all the possibilities like فَتَثَبَّتُوا and فَتَبَيَّنُوا was there. But as I said, Abdullah, is that even if these possibilities were there, from a rational point of view, they wouldn't read it in 2 ways unless it was transmitted in 2 ways. Is that clear? So it always goes back to the revelation. And the thing of the scripture is just more a philosophical debate than anything else. The 2 ways of reading is not because the word allowed you to read it in 2 ways, it was because it was transmitted to be read in 2 ways. Is that clear? Yeah. Yes.
When all these scholars,
Yeah.
so when they were teaching and transmitting
Yes.
based on the Quran,
Yes.
was it more based on Shaykh or would that be
No, it was oral transmission.
oral?
Yes, just like today. Until today, our chain of transmission, I read with my Shaykh who read until the Prophet ﷺ, and it's all oral transmission. Yeah.
And the means of the writing was just helping, or
It was to preserve the Quran in a certain way when people started to differ about what was Quran and what was not. That was when a lot of qurra, a lot of reciters in the Battle of Yamama, they had died. So the worry was there that if all these scholars memorizing the Quran would die, then who would be the reference? So this is when they said, we take all the memorizers of the Quran together, and then we look at what was written down in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and then we are going to compare. Yeah, and then they compiled it, and they burned all the other Qur'ans or masahif, personal masahif of companions, because they would include tafsir in their Qur'an, right? So then people would be afraid that if they were to read something and they would find the explanation of the Sahabi, a tafsir of a word, that they would consider it Qur'an. So then everybody was ordered to burn, Uthman ordered everybody to burn every other writing apart from the writing of the Qur'an that he wrote down. You should know that that was based on the people that used to memorize the Qur'an in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So they would be these scholars who would have memorized the Qur'an in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So, and they all agreed. And if people say, Orientalists will say, okay, that's dangerous because you are, after so many years, you are now relying on memorization of people of the Qur'an. Well, until today, millions of people memorize the Qur'an, you see? So even if now the Qur'an, may Allah preserve, all the Qur'ans in the world would be burnt, well, tomorrow we would have a new one. You understand what I mean? So that which preserves the Qur'an is not the written Qur'an, it is that which was in the hearts. But at the very beginning, Uthman wanted to make sure that that which is Qur'an was preserved, so that people, if they would differ, they would say, no, you're making a mistake, this is not in the Mus'haf al-Uthmani. So, and then afterwards, everybody memorized the Qur'an and everything in harmony with what Uthman had written down based on the memorization of these great Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Does that make sense? Yes. Now we are going into Ulum al-Quran actually. So this is more Ulum al-Quran. So anybody another question? Does somebody go home being confused about the Quran? Because then we have to tackle it from an Aqidah point of view. Everybody, for everybody is clear? Okay. What's the time, Khayyam? 8:20. What time do you want to have a break?
We could break now.
Yes? How many minutes?
9 minutes today?
9 minutes?
Just to be different.
Okay. 9 minutes, inshallah.